I was thinking, I know we're going to be talking about grief
Mm-hmm.
and loss, but do you experience any grief with the process that you're going through? I mean, it's like one day Quita was there, and then the next day it was like, pray for Quita, because she has some heart issues. I remember getting a text. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So we prayed. A few hours later, it was like, pray for Quita because her kidney is shutting down. I'm like, huh? And then it was like, okay, so now we're going to be doing dialysis and all this stuff. Does that bring a sense of grief of like, I'm losing what I had, or?
Yes,
What's that
definitely. Because, again, showing what grief truly is. It's losing, what you had, unmet expectations, things that I'm thinking my life is just going this, and this, and all of a sudden,
Right.
no. And especially not even I wasn't even at a stage where, okay, you just do this and that. I go in there and I'm at what they call end stage.
Right.
That's it. Your kidneys have just said, we ain't working no more.
Right.
And there were, when I was in the hospital, it was, no problem. And one day I was at home and I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, I just got overwhelmed with, oh my goodness, my kidneys aren't working. And before, I really didn't think anything about it. But now I get this big list of things that you can't do. Can't eat. You need to be here at this time 3 times a week. And then it just starts, really the realness of it all does. It puts you in a panic. But it is. It's grief because it's the loss of something.
Welcome, I'm Pastor V of Zion Temple Community Church, and this is our very own sister Lequita Hodge, and she is actually the head of our grief ministry here at Zion Temple Community Church. And over the last month, I came up with this idea that I just really believe is from the Lord, and talking about real issues and real challenges for a real God. So real issues, real God. Maybe that's what we'll end up calling this. I don't know. This is our first one, so you tell us how you like it, and if you'd like to see more of this sort of content, and if it's a blessing to you. Today we're going to talk about grief because it's the holiday season, and I know from my own personal experience that a lot of people during this season, everything's happy. The commercials are all happy. I've never seen a commercial that says, you know what, I am really sad this holiday season. I ain't cooking nothing. I don't feel like doing it. I gotta go smile with these people who are my family. I love them, but, or I'm hurting because I've lost someone recently or years ago. So I've never seen anyone deal with that type of thing during the holiday season. So I thought, let's deal with it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about grief and where does God fit in it. And I mean, I was told never put a question mark where God has put a period. So if someone died, I guess you shouldn't talk about it anymore.
So untrue.
No? You don't think so? All right. Well, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into this grief and recovery ministry.
It starts, I have always been one to try to encourage people. And with reference to being an advanced grief recovery specialist, in 2008, in 11 days, I had a godfather, godmother, and my biological mother pass away. So that made me start thinking more and more about loss. Although I was raised by grandparents, so because of their age, I dealt with a whole lot of loss growing up. So it was something I was familiar with. And then a cousin who was like a brother died a couple of months later. Then I lost a son. And then the next month I lost my husband. And when I started seeing all the different types of losses that I had, I started thinking other people are dealing with this too, and decided to just take a class on how to help people during that situation. And in the process, I even helped myself more.
I was just going to ask, what was the most helpful thing for you during that period of time?
To be able to talk and express myself. One of the things that I believe that in the grief process, and making it known that grief isn't just about death, it's losing a job.
Okay.
You know, it's losing close friendships, just anything that you had life expectations to go one way and it goes the opposite way.
Okay.
That can be part of grief too. But one of the most helpful things was to be able to talk to someone. A lot of times we don't speak to people about this. We want to shut off. We think if we ask them about that loved one that it's going to hurt them more. I'm sure anybody could tell you, whether anybody mentions them or not, you are still going to be thinking about them.
Right.
And sometimes it's even better when you mention something to someone, because it feels good. At least I know with me, to know that people are still thinking about my husband.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to think that way too. And I thought, well, hey, I don't want to bring them up, or I don't want to do something to remind them of their husband or whatever the loss was, right? And then I saw a post that said exactly those words, like, it's not like they aren't thinking about them anyway.
Right.
And so that it was, usually a welcoming thought. So now, okay, so this is a holiday season. Right, in a few days it's Thanksgiving and everyone's happy. Is it normal to feel sad or to deal with loss during this same period of time?
Very, very much so. Because during this time, like we were just saying, we're already thinking of them from time to time, but you get to holidays and certain people have certain holidays that they were more ingratiated in, and then that let you remember that, oh yeah, they loved doing this, they loved helping it, and then that just brings up more and more. And a lot of times I think it's, again, I go back to not being able to talk to, not resolving the grief that we have, that even makes it worse. But it's normal, and that's what we have to get out too. It's a normal process. It's normal to feel that way. And when you allow yourself to feel that way, then one of the things I have, and I think about, it takes sadness to get to happiness.
Okay.
In this situation, because going through that, thinking about it, helps you.
Yeah.
Process it, and pretty soon those tears that you cried, that you may still have some sadness, but now they're bringing out the happiness because you've talked about it.
So I'm not strange or abnormal, because every holiday season, well, first of all, I am the only survivor of my immediate family that I grew up with. So my mom passed when I was young. My dad passed as an adult, and then my brother passed, and it was the four of us there. After my mom passed, I was raised by my grandparents, but I was 12 then, and then my cousin, who's like a brother, and I also have a sister through another marriage, but I've never lived with her because I'm much older.
Right.
Than she is. I was gone away. I was in high school when she was born. But every holiday, I told Alyssa that every holiday there's a period in which I know that I'm not alone. Oh, I'm not lonely, but I feel alone. And I have been unable to avoid it. Christmas is the biggest one because of, when the Christmas songs come and all the memories are there, and I no longer have that Christmas or anyone to share those thoughts with.
Right.
Christmas is with my immediate family. And so it's a sadness that's there. And so at first, the sadness used to make me sad, because I was having the sadness. But then I realized that I think that was part of the normalcy of life, and of grief. And so that became what I began to thank God for those memories and for those experiences. And that sort of, it made it, I'm not less sad, but the sadness isn't as painful.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Exactly. Right.
And
so the sadness is now coming to a form of happiness. Like you said, you're not, of course you're going to have some of those feelings, but because you allow yourself to have them, it becomes easier.
Yeah. I was just wondering if anybody out there that's listening to this, have you ever felt that way, and maybe how do you deal with it? Put some comments in the chat there and let us know. And I also wonder if there's anybody, because while I have that, right, I'm experiencing that, but then I have my new immediate family, my wife and my kids, and so sometimes I call it being suspended between two places. And so is it possible to be happy and sad at the same time?
Most definitely.
Really?
Most definitely.
I am that, but I also think I'm kind of strange. So.
Then we all have a little bit of strangeness.
Yeah.
Because it is I have had moments that I've just sat around and I'm with everybody, and then you wander off in memories with the other, because a lot of my family that I grew up with, grandparents, aunts, uncles, mom, they have passed on too. So you start, as you're looking, I have felt like sometimes, what is this saying, out of body experience? Like I'm just sitting here and I'm watching all of my kids and everybody have a good time, and there's a part of me that's excited about seeing the grandkids run there and doing this and that. And then I go into myself and start thinking about the past. But because I allow myself to think about the past, like you said, it gets better.
Yeah.
It does get easier. Doesn't mean you necessarily still want to think that sometime, but it does get easier. The more you allow yourself to feel and think it, because we've grown up in a society that's not what you get taught.
Right.
You're taught to, don't feel bad. Well, how are you supposed to feel? Right. If something, terrible happens.
Or this one just be strong.
Yes.
In fact, let's talk about stupid things that people say.
Yeah. It's like, be strong. It's like, what is that actually? That's something that it's going to be a strength is an individual thing. But what does it actually mean when it's talking about being strong? A lot of times what it means, people don't want to see you cry. Right.
Because crying makes other people uncomfortable.
And that's what it is a lot of times.
Kind of uncomfortable. I don't know what to do with your tears.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Then it sometimes it makes you think about it's like, I've seen a lot of times and we do things well-meaning. I don't think that anybody who does certain things, they do it with any type of malice or the intention of it. But we have to realize that, when you're talking to somebody and they're finally telling you, because you know how it is, we're not good about telling our feelings and what we need. And then all of a sudden, what do? Well, yeah, that's good. Well, you made it through. Well, that's not the point. The point is that I'm finally sharing. So allow people to share.
Oh, that's a good one. Just allow them to share. Allow them to be there. I think some of the saints, we say, oh, well, he's in a better place now.
Right.
Well, better for who?
Yeah. It's like, I know that, but right now we were talking about me. Yeah. And that's what we do. We deflect.
Right.
We deflect from talking to you to the person who died.
Yeah.
Which is another thing we were talking about. We're not good on saying died.
That's true.
We're good at passed on, gone to a better place.
Die seems so final.
It does.
I know even as a pastor, when I'm talking to a family, I still try, because it's so fresh, I still try to use terms in which the person's gone, but it's not so final. He's a good person. Well, he was a good person.
Yeah, right.
Or so I get it. Yeah. It's part of that thinking of not wanting to make them realize it's so final, but they know it's final, right? So but another stupid thing that I've always heard people say that got me was God needed an angel, or God needed a flower, or God needed whatever.
That's a big one too. Again, you understand, but also think about the fact that angels and people, we're two different entities that God created.
Right.
So he's not going to all of a sudden...
Well, you don't get deep theological.
Make... So that's why even as a kid, it was always, God needed an angel. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, at least you were okay. When people told me as a kid, my mom died, I was like, well, I need my mama. God be God. So I was mad at God for a long time. So it's perfectly normal during the holiday season to experience the sadness during that time. So I think we should you think it's okay just to roll with it for a while? Just to sit in it? To
let yourself feel what you feel. My children got to see grief, although I was never one, even before I did this, to pull back on things.
Okay.
But they really got to see grief in action when my husband passed away. Because I told them, when I feel what I feel, I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to do. I think once I told you, said one of the things, Jesus wept. So my thing has always been, Jesus wept. And the next verse wasn't, man up, Jesus, stop crying.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's deep. Wow.
So my attitude was...
I gotta sit there for a minute. And the next verse wasn't, man up, Jesus, stop crying. Wow. Wow. That's great, because I think what it does, the fact that Jesus wept, is just that. It's showing that emotions are given by God.
It shows his compassion, which that means we can have that same thing.
Right. It's his humanity.
Exactly.
So is it possible, or should I try to avoid this sadness? Is there anything I can do to avoid this during this holiday season, or is it even good to avoid it during this holiday season?
I don't think it's good to avoid it, and I don't even know if there's the possibility. Like I said, by continually dealing with it, allowing yourself to have that grief, that's how, as time goes by, it can just become another feeling. And not because of one of the myths that time will heal.
Time will heal.
Just because as time rolls by, when you learn how to deal with certain things, you just become, better at it.
Okay.
Or more comfortable with it. And it's even one of those things that I don't mind feeling uncomfortable that I still miss my husband, but then that's just me.
Yeah, I wish that we were all like that. But while you can be that way, I think society isn't that way with people being uncomfortable. We are okay if you're uncomfortable for a certain period of time.
Right.
But now it's like, okay, get over it.
Right.
And part of that's because if you're not the person who experienced the loss, whether it's a job or a spouse or a kid or anything, your life is you go on.
Right.
Or you go back to whatever it was. But now you have this new normal that you don't like, but you're forced.
You're just forced
to deal with. I have some friends who lost a son this year. He was murdered, and so you never expect your children to be murdered.
No.
And this is going to be their first holiday season without that son. And I often wonder, how are they doing? So one of the things that we can do maybe is call and ask that question.
Yeah.
How are you?
How are you doing? Really, how you're doing. One of the problems or the situations that we have with grief is because we are society people that want everything dealt with intellectually. Intellectually, we always have a solution to something. What we have to learn is grief is totally emotional. And when it's just emotions, sometimes it's gonna be back and forth. It's gonna be, I feel better, but then something comes along and now I'm feeling a little worse. So I think that's another process that can help too, when you finally realize that, wait a minute, I am not going to be able to, 4 plus 4 may mean 8. That's why it's taking me a while to get to it, because it's totally emotional.
Okay. What are some of the other myths about grief?
We learn how to replace the loss. Like, you even get people who have a child that's young that might, well, thinking y'all can have another one.
Wow.
It's like, okay. Same thing as a puppy. Something happens to that, we'll get you another puppy. Okay. Another myth is grieving alone, because one of the things that you don't think about, if something happens, what do you say to someone? Oh, we'll leave him alone. Let him be alone. Well, no, again, that's when you start isolating yourself.
Right.
And then all you have is the thoughts, to yourself. Not that there's anything wrong with being alone, but we shouldn't, that isn't our first go-to, to leave them alone and not let them, you at least, approach someone, try, how's it going? Is there anything I can do? Can I be there for you? Instead of just, let them go. Being strong,
right.
Like you said, that kind of thing. Just because you cry doesn't mean you're weak.
Oh, that's another deep one. Just because you cry don't mean it just means you hurt, huh?
Yeah. Pain. And I think I was to scripture, Psalms 56:8, where it talks about God knows our wandering and he bottles up our tears. So that means your tears are worth something to God. They mean something to him. And, those are the things that helped me get through. I've had the grieving process before, but my husband by far was the worst thing.
Yeah.
You couldn't have told me that. I thought my grandparents were going to be the worst, but he was. And learning how to just deal with it and let it. It doesn't mean it hurts any less. So I don't want anybody to think that what I'm trying to, put out here is that, you cry, you'll feel better. You do feel better.
Okay.
But sometimes you are going to feel worse. But as you keep going, you will see the value in letting your feelings out there, expressing them.
So holiday grief is normal.
Yes.
Right. Probably last questions. Or last two. You have any suggestions for those who are experiencing the holiday blues, I guess we'll call it?
Right.
And then suggestions for someone outside of how we can help, per se, for a bit of a lack of word, or be there for those who may experience holiday blues.
I think how we can help people is sometimes just a telephone call, a card in the mail, whatever suggestion and whatever relationship you happen to have with that person, to, try to bring it more to the forefront. And then not just do it during the holiday time too.
Okay.
After the holidays have passed by, try to, do that a little bit. Light a candle, like at Thanksgiving, you could have some candles lit. Okay. That here, and it's going to be in memory of in honor of that person. It's decor, and then the honoring of them. Good again, sharing stories. Sharing scrapbooks, showing people, look at the things, from the past. Okay. And then you're bringing that. Charities. Donate to a charity.
In honor of
the person who's lost. They have a lot of the walks and stuff like that. Those are different things that you can do too that make you, it just makes you feel good to honor those people that have gone on before us.
Maybe you're experiencing that holiday blues, that sadness. So if you need someone to talk to you or someone to pray with you, send us an email, prayer@ztccla.com, and we will respond to you and reach out to you and make the connection. So we're praying for you. You know, if you're singing Jingle Bells with tears running down your face, it's all right.
Yes.
Thanks again to our grief and recovery specialist,
Always
Lequita
available.
Hodge. Yes, and she's always available. So thank you. We pray that Zion Temple is making a difference in your life. I am Pastor V, and this is Lequita. God bless you. Thank you. And hey, any suggestions that you have, topics that you want to talk about for a real God and real issues, let's do that, because I just believe, here's what the word says. It says casting all your cares on him, for he cares for you. So there's no subject off limits, because God cares about what you care about.